Hello, everyone. In this video, we explore a major turning point in the history of the Americas, how North America was transformed through encounters with Europeans. Our focus spans from the mid-15th century to the early 17th century. During this time, diverse and rich Native American societies thrived across North America. Meanwhile, Europe was entering the age of exploration, and powerful kingdoms and trade networks were flourishing across Africa. This video examines how these three worlds, Native America, Europe, and Africa, existed, encountered one another, and ultimately clashed or blended, reshaping the trajectory of history. When people think of American history, they often begin with Columbus's voyages or the founding of British colonies. But in fact, the American continent was home to many civilizations long before that. Likewise, Europe and Africa had their own complex developments. In this episode, we first look at what each region was like around the year 1450, comparing their characteristics to understand the background behind their eventual contact. Let's begin with the Native American societies of North America. These were far from simple hunter-gatherers. Many practiced agriculture, maintained complex political structures and trade networks, and followed deeply rooted religious systems. In the Southwest, the Anasazi and Hopi peoples cultivated crops like maize in arid climates and lived in communal dwellings made of earth and stone. They also practiced spiritual rituals centered on the sun and ancestral spirits, often using underground ceremonial spaces known as kivas. Along the Mississippi River Valley, the Mississippian culture flourished. In cities like Cahokia, which at its peak housed as many as 20,000 people, large earthen mounds served as religious and political centers. Long-distance trade extended from Canada to Florida, moving goods and ideas across vast territories. In the Northeast, the Iroquois Confederacy united 5 nations, the Mohawk, Seneca, and others, under a system known as the Great Law of Peace. This served as a kind of constitution that helped mediate conflict and guide political decision-making. Some scholars believe this model influenced the future U.S. Constitution. Turning to Europe around 1450, the continent was undergoing important shifts. While remnants of feudalism persisted, rising commerce and urban growth began to reshape European societies. These changes, along with growing religious tensions and technological advances, set the stage for a new age of global exploration. Motivated by trade ambitions and religious zeal, Spain and Portugal launched overseas voyages. Although their initial aim was to reach Asia, their efforts brought them instead to the Americas. This search for opportunity would dramatically alter the future of North America. In 1492, Spanish explorer Christopher Columbus reached the Caribbean, initiating a wave of European contact with the Western Hemisphere. Though often referred to as a discovery, it was actually an encounter, and soon a conquest. Spain expanded rapidly into Central and South America, toppling major empires like the Aztec and Inca. These early conquests set a precedent for European colonization, resource extraction, forced labor, and social disruption. Spain introduced the encomienda system, compelling native peoples to work in mines and plantations. While silver wealth enriched Europe, native societies were devastated. This new contact triggered the Columbian Exchange, an enormous transfer of crops, animals, and diseases between the old and new worlds. From Europe came horses, cattle, wheat, and smallpox. From the Americas came corn, potatoes, and tobacco. This exchange reshaped ecosystems and economies on both sides. But diseases decimated indigenous populations, dramatically altering American societies. The sharp drop in native populations led European colonizers to turn to Africa for labor. Partnering with African kingdoms, they began transporting enslaved Africans to the Americas. This marked the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade, embedding forced labor and African cultural heritage deeply into colonial American life. North America experienced these changes in distinct ways. Though Spain dominated in the South, it also established missions and settlements in the American Southwest.
Here's a fascinating little story from Cahokia. The people of Cahokia actually drank a caffeinated religious beverage. Its name, the legendary black drink. Why did they drink it? For 4 reasons. Purification, mental focus through caffeine, ritual bonding, and to display power and ceremonial authority. What's more surprising is that it was made from a plant found over 900 kilometers away in the southeast, and it was ritually consumed from shell cups.
Back to the story, native resistance was fierce, most notably in the Pueblo Revolt of 1680, which temporarily drove out Spanish forces. In the Northeast, the Iroquois Confederacy took a different approach. Rather than being conquered, they negotiated and traded with European powers. Especially France, Britain, and the Dutch, positioning themselves as a strategic force in early colonial power struggles. These varied responses reflect a key theme in American history. Indigenous peoples were not passive recipients of European influence. They adapted, resisted, and reshaped their own futures. Cultural mixing also emerged. In Spanish territories, mestizo populations formed, blending European and indigenous ancestry. Native communities reinterpreted Christianity in their own terms. African traditions survived in music, religion, and language. These interactions formed the roots of new American cultures. By 1700, the foundations of colonial America had been laid. Colonies had been established by several European powers, but each took a different approach. Spain pursued centralized control and religious conversion. France focused on trade and alliances, particularly in Canada and the interior. England, whose influence would later dominate, began building settlements along the Atlantic coast, emphasizing agriculture, family migration, and local self-rule. These differences would shape the political, economic, and cultural development of early America. While this period saw violence, disease, and enslavement, it also set the stage for the diverse and complex society that would emerge in North America. In the next episode, we'll look more closely at how these colonial societies were structured and how their differences shaped the origins of American identity.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and stay tuned for the next chapter in the story of American history.